Hello, so you've made it to video 2, congratulations, and I've titled this one, How We Get Lost. In the proverbial sense, how we kind of lose sense of self and can often spend many years in desperation trying to find ourselves, trying to complete that which is not yet whole. You've often heard the terms, a work in progress. Not there yet, have to be better than you were. And the problem with all of these is if you zoom out and maybe look at the bigger picture, what we do with these statements is 3 very important but disempowering things. First and foremost, we confirm that we are not yet who we would like to be, i.e., there is something wrong that needs fixing. As a consequence of that, at some point in a possible future, we have placed success, love, a feeling of high self-esteem or self-worth. Because if now isn't good enough, at some point in the future when I do X, Y, Z, I will arrive and people will like me. I will be at peace. I will be successful. I will find myself. And the third thing, it creates a treacherous journey. And this is why so many resolutions fail. This is why so many attempts of a new diet or a new exercise routine fail literally within weeks. Because if the person here now has to significantly change in some way to be accepted, to be worthy of love, to be somebody that you can actually look in the mirror and like, never mind love, like at some level of respect. If that isn't here yet, and you know that that's what life is all about in terms of long-term goal for success, and yet it's out there potentially 2 to 3 years in the future, what do you think happens when you take the first step of that journey? You confirm lack. If I am currently not happy in myself, I'm broken in some way and I need to attain X at some point in the future. I need to get the car, I need to have a 6-pack, I need to get super fit, win a marathon, open a business, meet the perfect partner. Now there's nothing wrong with these things. But again, if we zoom out and see what is actually going on, and I call this the observer perspective, instead of the pinball in the machine, getting bounced around, bang, bang, bells and whistles. The reactive mind, the unconsciously driven habitual mind. To zoom out as an observer and understand what's going on. When I confirm that this version of me isn't good enough, and I hope at some point in the future, by doing specific things, I will be good enough. The first step often confirms lack and misery. Because I can tell you something, if you are looking for happiness, you confirm that you do not have it. We're too intelligent to look for stuff that we already had. For example, obviously I'm recording on the phone, but if I have a phone, I don't need a phone. If I have a car, I don't need a car. If I'm in the desert and dying of thirst, water is my priority, and I'd probably give millions of pounds just for a sip to stay alive. So you can see what becomes important. You don't need to find happiness. You need to understand what the conditions are that you've put around accepting yourself in this moment. That's the big one. Why do we need to look a certain way? Why do I need to lose this amount of weight? Now that could be for health reasons and that's fine. But I've had PGA golfers come to see me and want a six-pack. And as we've drilled down into that, they have realized it is a pointless goal. It would potentially take a very, very long time with a huge amount of suffering and discipline mixed together that may well not be sustainable. And they realized that wouldn't make me happy, because what we did is we got them to future pace. Let's say you've achieved this. What's it done for you? And they've been very honest. It's unfulfilling. Why? Because that was not what I actually wanted. So what I want you to do is focus massively on the goals that you have set yourself. Are they for you? Are they for other people? Are they for you to be accepted by other people? Maybe to impress them in some way. No judgments, just being brutally honest. Because if you are doing something to impress somebody else, I can guarantee you as soon as you cross that finish line, instead of a deep sense of elation, there will be a sink and a come down, because you will realize that it was largely pointless. So looking a bit deeper into how we get lost. Society, influencers, parents, teachers, siblings, peers, the media, particularly with social media today, which I didn't have as a child. We're told that certain things are right and wrong. We have to look a certain way, own certain things, do certain things. And this can often remove us from the fact that we are largely already enough. We were born enough. You can't add to that, you can't take from it. But you can get conditioned to a level where you are hungry for more at the expense of ever being satisfied with who you are. I'm going to say that once more because that is very important. In our search for more, we forget that we are already complete and enough. That's a very important thing to understand. Because what happens is we go on this endless pursuit, often of personal development, wandering from every lecture, book, guru, taking a sabbatical somewhere, maybe to India for 6 months to find ourselves, only to realize that we've been here all along. Looking for self is the same as looking for the glasses that are on your head. You've been here all the time. You cannot go anywhere else. An additional level of how we get lost is physically we are time bound. Yet the mind can wander. It can wander anywhere from memories of when you were a toddler, your earliest experiences that you can actually recall as an adult, into a vast fantasy world that Hollywood would love to own, conjuring up everything possible. And what we often do is we use these to our detriment. We'll go back to the past, and instead of looking at our wins, our fantastic memories, the experiences that we've had that created who we are, our interaction with friends and families, I call it the horror archives. We'll go back into what was wrong, what we didn't like, who upset us, who did X, Y, and Z to us, and we're now bitter because of that. And obviously there's then the future. And with the future, instead of seeing potential possibility and a blank canvas that's created by the actions of this moment, we see a fiction section that pits us largely as the victim of circumstances. Can I do it? What if it goes wrong? People will say something. No one in my family's been successful. I couldn't possibly achieve, fill in gaps. So what happens then? It's very important that you bring awareness to the channel that you operate on. What are you saying to yourself in these situations? What are the consequences, i.e. the emotional aspects of living on that channel? Because what happens is there's a thought, there's an inner dialogue. And in terms of biochemistry, that creates a feeling. And that feeling largely influences the behavior that follows. And if we're not at peace, if we're nervous, anxious, angry, we often make decisions from a place of doubt to keep us safe, instead of decisions from confidence that we know will advance us. So my advice to you there is to spend time being aware of the thought patterns, the inner dialogue, the feelings, which aren't right or wrong, and we'll deal with those at a later stage. And then the behaviors, because something very important with the observer perspective is you get to rewind the movie and see exactly what caused how you currently feel. If you're in the realm of emotion, angry at how you now feel, you will never change that. The movie's finished, the end credits are rolling. When you feel a certain way, and know that this is not in your best interest, it's not a creative state, it's not a state where you feel you can add any form of positivity, because basically you feel pretty bad. Rewind it and look for the triggers. What outside caused this? Because you may have seen something, you may have heard something. What internally could have caused this? What were my thought patterns prior to this event? What did I say to myself? Because that will give you a big insight. And more importantly, the ability to choose a response and act rather than to react. Because when we react to how we feel, we're in that turbulent realm of emotion. And your brain doesn't like you feeling uncomfortable. So what often happens here is we run away from that discomfort. We avoid taking action, we avoid stepping up. Instead of putting ourselves out there, we look around, we feel a little bit worried, judged, anxious, and we retreat back into safety. Because for many, many, many years, roughly 3 million, your brain has been learning its most important lesson: survival. It has one primary job, and it is militant in the pursuit of this goal: your survival. And that comes at a cost, because your brain largely has no interest in whether or not you are healthy and happy. Now that's a painful pill to swallow, I know that. Your brain is interested in you surviving and being safe. Now here you see the problem, because when we are in familiarity, comfort, the known, that we have a track record of experience with so we can predict outcomes, the brain can relax. That kind of sniper in the bell tower looking for blips on the radar is okay. But when you step up and want to talk to a potential partner, or have a conversation with your boss, or own your health, open a business, have that difficult conversation with someone, all of a sudden the feedback kicks in. The emotions, the inner dialogue, the negativity bias, that wave a finger of caution, because you are about to adventure into territory that I'm not familiar with. I'm already getting bad feedback, knots in the stomach, pulse raises, cold sweats maybe, the jitters, who knows. Visions of doom, gloom and failure. For most people, think of public speaking in front of 200 people. Instantly there's that sense of terror and overwhelm. Because your brain doesn't like to put you in situations that you potentially can't cope with. A threat could be a serious threat, could be life-threatening, could be death. This element of the brain served its purpose many, many, many thousands of years ago. But not so much now, because there's largely no natural predators for us, particularly if we are living in a city. Wander through Serengeti, may have a problem, But for those of you in the built-up city, there's really no natural predators. Yes, you can get killed crossing the road, and many people do. A lot of that comes down to awareness. So the take-home message here is understand something very important. Instead of arm wrestling with your inner critic that wants you safe, understand why they exist. Even thank them for looking out for you. Sit with the discomfort until it begins to subside. And then do the thing that you know is going to advance you. Because as soon as you do, you start to create a track record of stepping up. You get a little bit more freedom, and you can go into what's known as a creative stage, where you start to seriously get some big work done. Hope that helps.